Welcome to Bits of History, brought to you by the Seward Community Library and Museum. My name is Lee Pileski. This is the second bit we have done about the names of the mountains around Seward. The first one covered the mountains on the west side of Resurrection Bay. This one will cover mountains to the north and east. The mountain directly north of Seward is commonly referred to as Resurrection Mountain, but the official name is Resurrection Peaks. By official, I mean recognized by the United States Board on Geographic Names. This is the federal body charged with providing for uniformity of geographic nomenclature and spelling. Resurrection Peaks received its name from Resurrection Bay and Resurrection River. The name Resurrection was given to the bay by Alexander Baranoff in 1793 because, as the story goes, he entered the bay on Easter Sunday. Also to the north is what many Seward residents call Wolcott Mountain, but the official name is Sheep Mountain. The name Sheep Mountain goes back to 1910 when the Geographic Board approved the name. It was reported as a local name due to the fact that in the early days sheep could be seen on the side of the mountain at almost any time. The most prominent peak on the east side of Resurrection Bay is Mount Alice. This was the local name for many years and was officially recognized by the United States Board on Geographic Names in 1983. But Alice was not its initial name. On this photograph it is called Phoenix Peak. The photograph was taken by Reverend Lewis H. Peterson, a Methodist minister and avid photographer who lived in Seward from 1905 to 1913. When Mount Alice became the common name for the mountain is not known, but was well established by the 1940s. It was named for Alice Lowell, a daughter of Frank and Mary Lowell who settled on Resurrection Bay in 1884. Alice Lowell was born in 1878 or 79. She married Henry W. Scheffler in 1897. Henry Scheffler was born in Prussia in 1862 and settled on Resurrection Bay in 1897. The Schefflers filed for a homestead at the head of Resurrection Bay north of Seward, through which what is now called Scheffler Creek runs and empties into Resurrection Bay opposite Mount Alice. In 1911, he and Alice were reported to be living on a farm near Sumner, Washington. They were later divorced, and Alice married Herman Weiss in 1924. In 1965, she was killed in an automobile accident in Tacoma. To the north of Alice is Mount Eva. There has been some controversy about the location of Mount Eva. Some said it was the mountain to the north of Mount Alice, and some the one to the south. For example, Mildred Kirkpatrick in a tourist guide, Seward, the Playground of Alaska, published by the Seward Business and Professional Women's Club in 1958, in describing its sketch, writes, "It is a faithful reproduction of the mountains across from the town on Resurrection Bay. The highest peak is Mount Alice. Eva is to the right, in the direction of south." Those who said that Eva was to the north prevailed, and that was a mountain recognized by the United States Board on Geographic Names in 2001 as Mount Eva, which is named for Eva Lowell, Alice Lowell's sister, born in 1884 or 1885. She married Harry Revell in 1906, and they had two children, Ida and Harry. They were divorced around 1916, and she married the famous big game guide Andy Simons in 1918. Andy was born in Finland in 1882. He came to Seward in 1908 and settled at Mile 20 on Kenai Lake. He guided hunters on the Alaska and Kenai Peninsulas for 60 years. He also served on the Alaska Game Commission for 27 years. Every year the Simons gave a traditional Christmas smorgasbord at their Kenai Lake home. Mary Berry in Volume 1 of her History of Seward says, "They had a charming place with a garden, a pen full of pheasants, and trees all around." Eva died in 1951 and is buried in the Masonic section of the city cemetery. Andy Simons died in 1962 and is buried next to his wife. The house they lived on Kenai Lake was destroyed by the 1964 earthquake. In 1967, Andy Simons had a mountain named for him at Mile 20 on the Seward Highway. Alaska's U.S. Senator Bob Bartlett presided at the ceremony honoring this longtime Alaskan. To the north of Mount Eva is Tiehacker Mountain, named for the men who fashioned railroad ties from trees for the Alaska Railroad. In 1929, U.S. Marshal Ralph Reed of Seward filmed a tie hacker at work with his 16mm camera. The Alaska Railroad needed thousands of ties. For example, the February 8, 1936 issue of the Seward Daily Gateway announced that the Alaska Railroad was in the market for 80,000 to 85,000 ties at 92 cents each. This was an increase over the old price of 65 cents each. We will continue with the place names of the mountains to the south of Mount Alice in a future bit of history. Thank you for listening to this bit of history, and remember, to learn more about Seward's interesting past, visit the Seward Library and Museum at 6th and Adams.